ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another ZD Toys Iron Man figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at the Mark 1, but more specifically the LED light-up version. Now I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as a brand new review goes live on the channel. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art, and it's done in the usual ZD Toys style, meaning it's suitably high quality. Iron Man Mark 1 on one side, an image of the figure on the other, Mark 1 plus a product shot on the side of the box, and then a ton more on the back. Plus, the entire thing is covered in this stunning metallic finish. Now, around the front, if you do flip open these two front flaps, you are treated to an insert featuring the figure himself. And they have made a questionable choice with the eyes once again. More on that a little bit later on. Now, I did review the first version of the Mark 1, and for the most part, yeah, I really liked it. I am curious to see how the light-up effect is going to impact articulation, if it does at all. Now, you do have one top tray and another down below, so what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces. Now, starting off with the display base first, it's pretty much the same as usual. This is the display base ZD Toys have been using for a while. It's hexagonal, it's transparent, and you can see Marvel Studios etched into the top. You do have a multi-jointed articulated flight pole arm and a spring-loaded waist clamp. Now, you only really get two other accessories in the form of these flame effects. They do peg into its flamethrowers and they look awesome. They are cast in yellow plastic with some orange shading for the top sections of the flames. Lastly, you do get a micro USB cable so you can charge up the internal batteries on your Mark 1. More on that a little bit later on. What we are going to do now though is get the Mark 1 himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And this is pretty much what I was expecting. The same already great Mark 1, just with an LED arc reactor. Now that doesn't mean there's nothing to talk about. The sculpt work is crisp and clean, there is a ton of texture that makes this guy look like he's actually made out of metal, where he isn't. This is all plastic. The paint applications are on point, and the articulation is pretty much the exact same as the first figure, which means it's pretty lackluster. More on that a little bit later on. Now, they didn't really take the chance to improve on some things that I think they should have, but they have improved on others. Now, the proportions are okay. The hips are very wide, the shoulders are very narrow, and his arms are permanently flared out to his sides. There are no swivels or cuts to get them to turn in, so he's always going to look a little bit goofy. But other than that, yeah, this is a very strong contender for a Mark 1 for the shelf. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. Now, quite surprisingly, there are some very noticeable differences between these two figures. Now, starting off with the arc reactors first, the new LED version of the left actually includes a ton more detail for the arc reactor, whereas the original was completely devoid of any detail and translucent plastic. So if I handed you this one and told you this was the LED version, you might actually believe me, because that looks like exactly what it's supposed to be. Whereas this one is the new figure. Now, the gauntlets have been completely redesigned. As you can see, on the first release, they were far too long. They completely covered his gloves. Whereas with the new one, the tops of his welding gloves on both sides are now exposed. That's something that they absolutely didn't have to do, but I'm glad they did. Everything else, though, is pretty much identical, including the way they painted the eyes. Now, when Tony is wearing the Mark I, you can see his real people eyes behind the mask. I totally understand if you don't want to sculpt a Tony head sculpt behind there, but at the very least paint them black. Having them silver is just a very weird choice. The paint applications on the rest of him, though, are stunning. He's weathered from head to toe, he's got green sections that have been chipped away, the same thing can be said for the tan sections, and he has multiple little hidden details. Like down here for his legs, you've got one red propane canister and a yellow one on the other side. That's something that, unless you were looking for it, you probably wouldn't have even noticed. And underneath all of the armor plating, his regular clothing is fully painted as well. You've got the brown welding jacket and then the grey pants. Plus, he does have some brown boots underneath the armor around his feet. As you can see, it is painted in, but they happen to have just gone over, unfortunately, on this panel that isn't supposed to be brown. But nevertheless, the detail is there. Now, if you are wondering, well, Justin, how on earth does this guy light up? You remove this back generator section, which is detailed very nicely in and of itself, and then you have a button. If you hit that button, the arc reactor lights up beautifully. It's a very bright, evenly lit LED, and all of that new detail is still visible with the light turned on. That, compared to the original guy, yeah, I think there is a very clear and noticeable difference in terms of which one I am going to prefer. Spoiler alert, it's this guy right here. The only annoying thing is every time you want to charge him up or hit this button, you do have to remove this back generator. Now, it's not super difficult to do, but if you do want to have him lit up for action figure photography and you are turning him on and off, then yes, it can be a little frustrating. But at the end of the day, having that LED turned on, yeah, it's a really cool feature. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the LED Mark I on the left and the original on the right. And as you can see, somehow, some way, the new one is slightly taller. And I'm not exactly sure how that's happened. Most of the mold is shared between both figures, but it seems like somewhere along the line he's gotten just a little bit more height. And to be honest, I'm not mad at that. I like the Mark I being this big, bulky looking thing, and now with just a little bit more height, he's definitely going to tower over other figures in the display. A perfect example of that is the Mark IV. Now previously he was the exact same height as the Mark I, where here with this LED version he is ever so slightly shorter. And that, once again, works perfectly for me. Now, it is all down to personal preference. If you don't really care about the LEDs and want the Mark I to be slightly shorter, then go for the original. If you like the idea of him being bigger, having the newly molded forearms, having a slightly different paint job, and having the LEDs, well, maybe this one is for you. Lastly, here we have Batman by DC Collectibles based off the animated series, and as you can see, him being a 6-inch figure, he is a lot shorter than the Mark I. Technically, I think the ZD Toys line sits around the 1/10th scale mark, which is a very unique scale and it is specific to their line. So if you are wondering if he can fit in alongside 6-inch figures, then you might struggle. But at the end of the day, this is Iron Man, it's a dude in a robotic suit. So if you did want to have him hovering in the background, being a little bit bigger than everyone else, then yeah, I guess that could work as well. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I am willing to go. Now starting off with the head sculpt, it is on a ball joint, going forward and back, swivel and pivot side to side. The arms will go out to there, they will go forward and back, single bend at the elbow that gets you to about 45 degrees. Everything in the torso, as far as I can tell, is fully fixed, including down here at the waist. The legs can drop down to give you slightly more range, and they will go forward to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, a single bend at the knee that does get you almost to 90, and then a ball joint down here for the ankle. Just wrapping up on the Iron Man Mark 1 LED version by ZD Toys. Now going into this, I thought I knew what to expect. Usually what we have is the standard figure with the guts ripped out, some LEDs chucked on the inside, and away you go. This time, they have done that, but they've also made some improvements. The neck is a little bit shorter, the entire figure is overall a little bit bigger, and they completely remolded the forearms. It is now way more accurate. So normally what I'd say is, well, just pick the LED version if you like the lights, and the normal version if you don't. But this time around, it's not that simple. I think the LED version is just hands down superior. He still gets the same great flamethrower effects, and the paint applications are crisp and clean, plus the sculpting is very, very sharp. Now he does lack articulation, but I think if you know what to expect going in, you can still work with it and get some truly badass poses. So at the end of the day, yeah, I really like this figure. He's a suitable upgrade over the original. Now I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. If you do like the idea of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews, why not hit that join button right next to the subscribe icon? You'll find out more about Justin's collection plus Max, the YouTube channel membership. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.